So hello everyone. We are at the headquarters with Lea Weaver. We just want to jump right in. This is again impromptu, so to speak. Definitely not impromptu. This was a long overdue meetup. I met Lee how many years ago, Lee?
Was it 2012? Yeah, it was 2012.
2012, yep.
Yeah, so
And
10 years ago? Oh my God.
oh my goodness.
Holy
Bonds that can be broken, man. So it's a pleasure to reconnect and meet back up with her because so much stuff has happened since we were in contact with each other, from business moves, career moves, to marriage, to just and more importantly, the recent diagnosis. Was it recent as far as?
I got the diagnosis 2 years ago.
2 years ago, recent, I'm sure. So in that, so this episode in this ASD, right?
Yeah, it's Autism Spectrum Disorder.
And that is what we're talking about today, guys. And this topic, I could not wait to talk about this after reading her story. Beautiful, beautiful story, by the way. And it was just for as long as I knew her. We worked together for about a year as well and kept in contact over the years, but just not even knowing that she was on the spectrum of autism. And there's so many people that are and don't know it, and so many kids and mothers don't know how to tend to that. So I just wanted to give you the floor, Lee, if you just want to tell your story a little bit, tell the people who you are, what you do, and all the good stuff.
Thank you. I think that I want to tell you that what you're doing is really important. Even if you're only reaching a couple people, or if you're reaching 2,000 people or 200,000 people, it doesn't really matter, because just putting information out there is so important. You don't know who it might affect positively. So I think that this is a super important thing that you're doing. And I know you said this was going to be your last episode for a while, but I would encourage you to continue to do it if you can, from wherever you are, because I think bringing information is bringing light, and that's never a bad thing. So I really appreciate you for doing that. I know.
I appreciate you. I'm so thankful. Seriously. I would do that for you. I would do that for the people who in which they need, because if this feels good to me, man, like it really feels good. And then, like you say, getting that information out there, because there's so many different things that's in this bridge in those worlds, and to be separated from yourself and you're different and you're like, well, what the hell? And just to know that there's other people, whatever that difference is, whether it's autism, whether it's spirituality, whatever that difference is, and just to know that you're not alone and have that platform to go to. So I'll definitely help you keep it righteous.
Really important. Yeah, that's exactly. So I guess I'll just start by saying, I think the reason why you were interested was because I wrote a couple of blog posts, really nothing major.
You guys, I'm gonna have that in the description box as well. It's beautiful, beautiful story.
And they were really about just, I had an experience recently at an event. So I'm a big nerd, and a big sci-fi nerd and Trekkie.
Trekkie, that's what it is. And I love a shout out to the Trekkies and the anime people and all of that community. Cheers to the Treks.
I have to drink.
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
But so, I married my husband, who's also a huge Trekkie and a huge nerd like me.
Beautiful photo. I wish I was there, Lee.
I will give you a photo that you can load to edit this with, because we were in full costume.
It was giving everything it was supposed to give.
It was crazy. So what happened was, we were at this event that I arranged for my husband for Father's Day this year. It was a fan expo where there were some Star Trek stars that were going to be there. Specifically, LeVar Burton and Brett Spiner. And they played some, integral roles, critical roles in Next Generation.
It was a big deal. You're meeting like
it was a really
names.
big deal. Yeah, it was it was Data, and if they know the characters from Star Trek, Data and Geordi. And so I booked a photo shoot with them and for my husband, and they were electronic tickets, and I had them on my phone. But when we got there, I don't love big crowds, and I don't love huge open spaces. I've done 54 now, so I've learned how to deal with a lot of that stuff.
That's so powerful. You're so resilient and strong. You're such a beautiful soul. I'm so serious.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. That's very nice of you. But so we were there, and it was just a lot. It was a lot for me. And we were in full costume, which was also a lot for me, because I don't like when people look at me. This is hard for me to do this, because even if I know one person is watching, it's difficult for me to know that and I'll punish myself later for this. I'll be like, oh God, you said this, you said whatever, terrible things. But so that's why I try to stay away from that kind of thing. But my husband really wanted to get dressed up, so we all dressed up like Star Trek characters, and we went to the thing, and we get in this huge line, and we get to the front of the line, and that is when, and we are the last people in line, and that is when I realized that I don't have the tickets on my phone, and I have to find them and pull them up, and I can't find them. And the manager of the event is like, I need the tickets. And I'm like, I'm trying, I'm desperate now. And all of the sounds, all of the lights, all of the pressure of being in that environment in a costume, and knowing that these famous people in the other room are waiting for us so that they can leave, so that they can get on with their own Father's Day. I had a meltdown. I had what I would consider like an autistic related meltdown, where I was not able to do anything further. There was so much pressure on me, and there was so much going on. There was so much input, and I couldn't. So what happened was I yelled, I screamed, I did this like little screech. I went, and I didn't mean to do it. Yeah, I didn't mean to do it, but it just came out. And so,
I can only imagine.
Brett Spiner.
So were you in front of them whenever you did that, or you were like getting ready?
No, we were getting ready to go through the screen.
So
we go through the screen, finally I found the tickets, and we go through, and Brett Spiner's like, wow, man, what the hell's going on? No, he was being so sweet about it. He was being funny.
Right. But in that moment...
But I was so apologetic. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was tears welling up in my eyes. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And Brett Spiner's making a joke out of it, which was fine. Like, I understand it was a joke, but LeVar Burton was much more, like, I felt like much more, like, in the moment compassionate about, like, he realized something was wrong. And I think that Brett Spiner was like, he was too, but something about LeVar Burton just...
Shout out LeVar Burton.
I love that guy. I love both of them, but oh my God.
That extra...
Yeah, and I'm not good at looking people in the eyes, but he was like, look at me, look at,
he was like, finding you.
Yeah, he's like, look. And he's like, calm down. He's like, calm down. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. And I was like,
so
okay.
comforting and assuring.
I was like, okay. And I turned to the camera and I smiled, and they clicked it, and we were out of there.
And all when I insert the picture here, like that would be, you couldn't even tell that, like that whole moment just happened.
If you saw the picture, you didn't know, but it all happened that way. And those guys, both of those guys, were so compassionate in that moment. I felt it a little bit more from Brett, from LeVar, because he was trying to continue to make eye contact with me.
I
felt like that was
really something about autism.
Maybe he does. I'm not sure about that.
Right.
But he was
maybe intuitively like, this is what she needs right now.
It was really amazing. So that's why I wrote the blog post, because I felt like they needed a shout out. Not that they will ever see it. I realized they are too important to read a stupid blog.
Watch. I'm gonna tag them. Because that honestly, that one small act made such a so were you diagnosed at that point, or after that you were like something?
I think I give this example because this just happened this last Father's Day. I give that example because it helps. I think people understand like what happens to somebody with autism when there are too many, when there's too much input, right? When there are too many stressors in the environment. So, and I just completely froze, and I like literally let out this childlike screech, which I'm the president of my company. I am really good at what I do. I'm just super good at what I do, and I know that. And there is nobody like me. There is nobody who can do that like I do it. Right. And I'm not trying to boast, and I'm not trying to, you know what I mean?
Self-flowers.
I'm
we can give ourselves flowers
trying
sometimes.
to say that like I know that I'm good at what I do, but also...
Cheers to that, Lee. Because you know your worth and adding tax, but honestly,
I appreciate it, but I know that also letting out a childlike screech at a public event doesn't make me look like the most professional person ever. So I give this example so that people can understand that someone with autism can look perfectly normal. I've had 54 years of wrangling this into a place where I can mask just as well as everybody else. I have learned to look people in the eye. I've learned to deal with the reflection off of that poster right there where the light is reflecting and the fan is doing this, and the fan is making the light strobe, but I'm keeping my eyes down so that I don't have to, deal with that kind of thing. Yeah, so those are the things that I learned to do. If I had too much more input here, I probably would not do as well. So I don't tend to, attend like too many public events or that kind of thing. But I got my diagnosis 2 years ago, and what it boils down to is that my whole life I've been struggling with these things, and people have ostracized me because I tend to be the kind of person who lectures at people instead of, like, if I know something about something, I will lecture at them instead of just telling them, instead of having a conversation with them, instead of maybe taking their feelings into consideration. These are all things I've learned about myself. And I tend to micromanage, and there are a lot of things that I haven't mastered about the autism that still keep people at more than arm's length. Like, after a while, a lot of people don't want to have anything to do with me because I do tend to seem like a know-it-all, or I don't mean to be like that. I really don't, and I'm trying to change that. Like, I'm really making efforts to try to change myself to be more compatible with socializing, with people, which is why
or the tribe, finding your tribes where you don't have to conform or change so much. So, but I get what you're doing. What I think what you're doing is amazing.
Well, what I think is important is that people like you, who are very open.
I'm not going anywhere, Lee. Just so that you know,
you'll always be my friend.
I will always be your friend, and that's on love, loyalty. And
I will always be your friend as well.
Thank you, Lee.
Yes,
friends to the end. Cheers to friendships.
Yes,
and bonds that can't be broken. I say amen. Yes.
Yeah, amen. So I'll stop talking now because I know
I have questions.
I tend to be very verbose. So I won't even talk anymore because this is your platform.
It's our platform.
I just wanted to say that it's important that, like, I think it's important for people to understand some of the symptoms and some of the things that people with autism go through, like, so that if there's anybody watching who knows somebody like me, or like a child or an adult or whatever. Adults in my era, I was born in 1968, were not diagnosed with autism. No, I'm actually on the cusp of that. I'm Gen X. So, I'm Gen X. So, but it was like 1966 that boomers started. Yeah, so I was like,
so you got two energies working for you, and that when it comes to
exactly. I don't have to say I'm. Yeah. Right. Anyway, not to disparage anybody. Right. So that is, I think it's super important for people to understand this, so that, because I think that if anybody's watching, and if anybody watches until the end, they'll go, I know somebody like that.
100%. So have you looked at the statistics for that?
I haven't looked at how many. Well, I think that the statistics that I've read are that only 1 in 2,000 people were diagnosed with autism in the 70s when I grew up.
So no research, no information, no help on like how to, for the parents back then to know how to.
And my parents would take me to psychiatrists. Like, I was in a psychiatrist's office all the time trying to figure out what was wrong with me. They put me in private school because I was being bullied, and stuff in public school because of what was going on. But now I think it's like 1 in 100 and some odd that are being diagnosed with autism. So that's how you know you guys are so special. And so when they say special needs, yes, special, but no, you're not special needs, obviously. But even in that category, it's just like that statistic. It's like those are the diamonds. I would say diamonds in the rough, but like that ailment, or whenever we are diagnosed with what we're diagnosed with, it was like, oh, like you are not normal or something like that. But it's like, yeah, I'm fucking special. I'm one in out of however many people. Well, yeah,
is that what it is?
It's I say 100, but my brain wants to say 44. So
so for the 44 ain't enough.
It's somewhere between 40s and 100 something. But it's a much more frequent diagnosis now, and I think it's because it's such a vast spectrum that somebody can be like completely unable to speak, and communicate in a normal, a way that what I would say normal people communicate in. With these are neurotypical people is what they're really called in a neurodivergent population, right? So I would be considered neurodivergent, and so would you. because of what we talked about earlier. I don't know if that's something that you talked about.
Oh, ADHD diagnosed when I was a kid.
I don't
like,
want to or anything like that. If that's what
all of it, yeah.
Talk about.
And she's been helping me. I've been zooming. Anytime I have a cold, she's like, okay, and this is like, she has told me 3 times, y'all, to check this thing in the background. I'm like, wait, oh yeah, thanks. You know, and I know I'm special. Like I don't know how common that is.
No,
you know, we all are in our own right, and it's a special thing. So for those who don't know what autism is, what is autism? Because we know that it's a spectrum, and that's probably as much knowledge that I personally have on autism, is that it's a spectrum, and that's about the gist of it.
So I'm not an expert on autism.
Right, and neither am I. So this is just our story, our experience, and her story more so, and just me being curious from her personal opinion, opinion, facts in her experience, not opinion. Yeah. These are facts from her personal experience.
So I can say that people with autism experience a wide range of things, but I would say the most commonly experienced things are, we have generally some issues with loud sounds and bright lights, and we can have issues with sensitivity to touch. So I didn't like the feel of water when I was a little girl. I mean, I really hated it. Like I would scream wildly every time my mother tried to give me a bath. So it was a whole thing to get me to take a bath. And even into my teens, I'd take a shower like once every week. It was really bad. It was like I was probably one of those stinky kids that you know, and like kids would always make fun of me, but I just really hated the feel of water on my skin. And
I hope you guys are really, really listening to these signs to look into, whether it's yourself or more so these babies, because like reading her story, like I said, I'm going to have it in the description, what she, like the conformity and like what she felt, and you write so lovely, by the way, but just in that, it's like we need to know what to look for within ourselves and our kids to save them that alone, that rejection, in which, when you don't know how, like you think, oh, she's weird, okay, but no, let's get to the, let's unpack that.
Like why?
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on? Yeah. So those kinds of things really, and I had like a very, very heightened level of anxiety as a kid, and they wanted to know, that was like one of the things that stopped me from doing almost everything. I had traumatic social anxiety. I did not know how to talk to people, and one of the things that I remember from being a kid was that I didn't want anybody to touch me. I was not one of those kids that liked being touched by anybody, being hugged. That was traumatic for me, actually. And even into my teens, people we have this thing in society where we hug our friends, like we did just earlier, right? I've gotten over that. No, I've gotten over that now. Don't worry.
I'm sorry.
No, don't worry. I really have integrated that into my, the way that I am socially now. So it doesn't bother me anymore, but I really didn't want anybody to come into my space when I was a kid and when I was a teen and even into my 20s, even though I got married and had children, because that's what I thought I was supposed to do, you know what I mean? I really didn't like touch. It was only, I finally kind of got past that in my 30s, and I finally said, if you're gonna integrate into society, you're gonna need to do some of these normal things. And I had been doing that since I was a kid, but one of the last things that I felt like I really needed to, grasp and actually take on as a challenge was hugging people. So I started hugging friends and stuff, which it was terrible. It was terrible at first.
Oh, wow.
It was horrible. But now it's just something else that I do. It's
so the integration was mission. I feel like this is, maybe it's real, maybe it's not as far as the reality, but like for that, like integration complete. You know what I mean? Like you successfully integrated that aspect, because for it to go with the touch. And it's funny because I just recently had a conversation with a friend, and she was like, you just be hugging everybody? I was like, well, I was like, not like everybody, but like my friends and family, 100%. And she and like maybe, I don't know, I'm not saying that she's on the spectrum, but every like that touch, and for someone else, for me, I'm like, what, you don't love hugs?
Yeah.
It's like, no, don't touch me. It's like, what?
Okay, so that is a really good point. And there are people who just don't like to be touched, who are not on the spectrum, right? I mean, that's just a thing. And I would say that.
So this imagine so much. So I would think, like, if that is a thing with the and I don't want to keep cutting you off, but
No,
just
don't. I'm
where
not worried.
it's different, but it's more intense because like she just don't like people touching her, but it's like outside of like it's just not a wall, but it's like no, it's literally doing something to me physically.
Yeah.
You touching me.
That's
you know
what
I mean?
happened to me for sure. For me, it was like that. It
Right,
was.
right.
I just felt. I can't explain the feeling of it. I didn't. It was something that I didn't even want to touch. Like boys was a thing at some point in the teens. Like my friends were all dating and they were like kissing boys and
You're like, whoa.
and I've always been like attracted to boys and girls, but not.
What,
but,
Lee?
yeah, I did tell you that.
Did you tell me that?
I thought I told you that.
Oh,
like a long
that,
time
we're
ago,
gonna talk off camera, guys. We're gonna have a part 2 with Lea Weaver and the hippie. Were you a hippie? Are you hippie?
I mean, my mom was, but I don't know that I don't know if I am. I think that's how my girls see me, but
I swear that's the energy when I met her. I was like, oh, I bet, because I had never met a hippie. I always called myself a hippie boy when I met. I was like, she's a real hippie. I was so excited. And it's like a flower child. Like your aura, your energy is so beautiful. It just really reminds me of that time. It's like, hey, relax, man. Just like relax.
Well, I can be a real pain in the ass too. I mean, I can be a really real hard ass. Like I'm not always like a happy.
And you have to have that balance because if you don't, exactly, then people take advantage of you. Then you gotta be like, rah, like me, rah.
Yeah, you do.
It's like, well, what's wrong? Because when I was a little hippie, it was me to me.
You do. You have to be like that sometimes,
Yeah, for sure.
unfortunately. But I think that one mistake that a lot of people make where this is concerned is assuming some things. So they'll hear my story and they'll go like, I've had friends go, oh, I know somebody exactly like you. He must have autism, and I'll be like,
what?
That's
not what I said.
Not like the thing is, I had to go through a whole lifetime of these symptoms and then I had to come to the determination that I needed to go get diagnosed, which wasn't easy, by the way. You have to go to a specific PhD that concentrates in autism diagnosis. Then you have to have your family fill out a bunch of forms about who they think you are as a person, how you've acted, who you are socially, like all these things. And then you have to fill out a bunch of forms about, how you feel in certain situations, like social situations and when you're by yourself and stuff like that. And then all of those forms are analyzed by a PhD.
Before
and
you
then,
get an appointment?
then you have to, but basically before you get an appointment, yes. And then you have to go back and have a meeting with that person. And it's a thorough, comprehensive meeting where they ask you they put me through tests where they put like a lot of faces on a screen, like a computer screen. And the faces were smiling and frowning and excited and whatever, all these things. Right. And they had me click a button to say, is this happy or sad? Is this excited or angry? Is this, like those kinds of things.
How do you read the emotions?
And like, it's how quickly you decide which one of those faces is what.
Right.
That helps them make a determination about whether or not you have autism. Also, your whole interview process. They ask you certain specific questions, and the interview probably took a couple of hours. After all of that, then I finally received, her diagnosis, and she explained it in great detail. I mean, it was pages and pages and pages of why she believes that I am on the spectrum. So
right. Don't just throw a slang at me. Let me know, or don't just throw a label on me. Tell me that I like that. So,
yeah. So when people say like, "Oh, you're just like my friend. He must have autism," or "Oh, I have those things too. I must have autism." Maybe I think that could be for sure. Like if you think that you are on the autism spectrum, you should explore that because it has awakened some things in me about who I was as a kid and why I was the way I was and who I am now and why I am the way I am. And it's prompted more change in me, like it's prompted me to be like more cognizant of some of the things that I continue to do that are spectrum related that I might be able to change. Right. So that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So in that, like, I have Oh, so in that, when you said that it helped you being diagnosed and really being aware of what to look for and how to nurture those gifts is what I want to call them. Like even that so when you said sensitivity, I thought about an empath, not wanting to be touched, just transferring energy. So it's like we are this the skin, that this is our body, but our essence is so much more than that. So it's like you're a goddess, and then you come in. It's just so many things. But I wanted to ask, as far as like once you got the diagnosis and going back, have you took that time to like nurture that inner child that went through that traumatic experience of not being? Is that part of the process?
That's a really good and very deep question, I feel like, but then you're good at that. I do, it has helped me kind of come to the conclusion that the reason why I had no friends until I was like, I had one friend until I was 9 years old, and the only reason that we were friends was because our mothers put us together in a room and said, "You be friends, you do this."
Lee needs friends, be her friend.
And and she was also very similar to me in that she was very critically shy, and so we did become friends. But it wasn't until I was about 9 years old that I had a friend that my mom didn't force me to have. Now I say that she was our next door neighbor, so my mom might have gone over there and said, "My daughter is special."
Because we'll do these things for our kids. We will. Yeah. We'll do it.
Yeah. So that's a distinct possibility. Right. I mean, I've had birthday parties where nobody showed up, and that all that kind of stuff, which is heartbreaking. But I have gone back. And I have been able to put a label on everything now, which makes me feel a little bit better about why nobody wanted to be my friend, why nobody wanted to have anything to do with me at all. And honestly, until I started to change things about myself, I didn't have any friends. It was 4th grade or 5th grade when I started to have like a few people who would talk to me casually, but it wasn't until about 7th or 8th grade when I actually had friends, what I would consider friends, that I got on my own, that nobody did for me.
It's like just you make friends. Seriously.
So I have been able to go back, and I think one of the things that the diagnosis did for me was it helped to make me a more authentic person. And by that I mean people with autism who are high functioning, which is what I would be considered on that spectrum. Yeah. So I'm considered a high.
She also reads minds, ladies and gentlemen. If you were crazy, every question that I have, like she literally just flows into that next question. But go ahead, Lee. So high functioning. Sorry. Wow.
So I would be considered a high functioning autistic person, and so so for me, I was able to mask very early in life. So by the time I got to be a teenager, I decided that I wanted more friends. I wanted to be more accepted, better accepted. And to do that, I was going to have to revamp the way that I communicated with people, because I can remember myself in 8th grade going up to a girl who was brand new in school.
Oh, the new girl.
Yeah, the new girl. And she was African American. And I thought we lived in a predominantly white neighborhood. And so I knew it was going to be really hard for her to integrate, because it just,
it was the time, I'm sure.
It was, it was the 80s, and like it was going to be difficult. So I made up my mind that I was going to walk over to her, introduce myself, and try to become her friend.
That took a lot of courage. And you say you were in high school at this point?
I was not. I was in 8th grade. Middle school, like 7th, 8th grade, somewhere on there. And I walked over to her, and I remember this like it was yesterday. I heard my voice, and I'm going to do it the best I can right now. I said it this way. I said, "Hi, I'm Jennifer. I just wanted to see if you wanted to be my friend." That's how I communicated with her. And loudly, abrasively.
Just straight to the point. You want to be friends or not?
I was like, here's my name. You want to be friends with me, or do you not want to be friends with me?
I want to be friends or not?
This is who I am.
You want to be friends or not?
sure she had to like.
You have to appreciate it. Like, I'm just like, how much of your time?
She had to take a chance on me because I was such a mess. And
I would have said hell yeah.
And here's the thing, like what I thought was, even if like she's super wildly popular and everybody loves her, right? And like white girls are like, oh, I'm gonna have a black friend now for the first time in my life, right? Like,
I was that black friend. I swear to God. Shout out Michelle and shout out Melissa. I swear to God.
So I swear, even if she became the most popular girl in school, which she did, by the way, I thought she's got to take pity on me because I am such a mess. Like I know I'm a mess, and I don't. And at that time, I really didn't know why completely, but I heard my voice come out. I knew it was inappropriate. I knew it wasn't the way everybody else communicated, and I thought, that's probably why people don't like me.
That's probably in your face.
That's probably one of the reasons why people don't like me, because I don't communicate like them. I'm not chill. I'm not like, I'm not just like super laid back and like, hey, I'm Lee, do you want to be my friend, or do you want to like let's hit the mall. Let's do something. July 1st, I'm a Cancer.
Cancer, okay. And that, look, because he's giving fire, like that was a very fire, that was bold, that was courageous. It's like, and you just mustered up the street, just going.
Yeah, I did. It was, I had to walk all the way across the auditorium floor with everybody else in the stupid building. So I'm like, here I go. And so I get my little fucking 12-year-old ass up, or however old I was, and I just like walk across the floor, and I was walking like with my head down and my arms by my side, like some little, so-and-so.
Yeah.
And so she was very nice about it, and she's like, okay. Like, I'm sure it was hard for her because she's probably like, I don't even know anybody, and now this nerd is coming up and approaching me, and she probably, her first thoughts were like, I cannot talk to this nerd because I will be immediately shunned by everybody.
Because that's a lot of pressure in middle school, you know what I mean? Like those are like the years where you're getting to know, or not getting to know, where you're developing, who you are in your place in the world, so to speak. So I'm pretty sure that's. Yeah.
So she came around though. Like ultimately, she started to be nice to me. She started to make friends with me. By the time we hit 9th grade, we were best friends. She was one of my best friends, and in that time, I took the time after that interaction, after I kind of really saw myself and heard myself for the first time, really. And
that's
thought,
actually deep. So you hurt yourself in that moment.
Yeah, and I thought this is probably why.
I'm gonna take this fan down some. It's kind of.
Okay.
Hey, I don't pay attention to my body. I'm not listening to my toes.
She's doing some weird freaky dance over there. I don't know what to make. It's like now she's jumping. I can't describe it.
It is happening.
So I did hear myself, and what I did after that was I made a concerted effort to go out in public and pay attention to how girls interacted with each other. So I would go to like the mall.
You did your research.
And I did.
Market research.
I stared at, like, I would just sit kind of in the middle of the mall, which is really fucking hard for me because sitting in public in a big area with lots of lights and lots of noises, that was already challenging. And then looking at people's faces, it was not my favorite thing to do either. But I would look at their faces and I would watch them interact. And one of the things that I remember seeing was these girls talking to each other. And I'm gonna try to do it now for you the way that I saw it, which I'll probably screw up. But this was the 80s, remember, right? So they'd be walking in the mall and they'd be like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Oh my God. No way. No way.
You were doing it.
Oh my God.
Oh,
I cannot. I
just can't even.
I cannot believe it. Oh, it's like these things. So,
that was perfect, by the way. I nailed it.
I know I did.
I guess when you have years of doing it, right?
I would go home after those times, and I would go in the mirror, and I would look at myself in the mirror, and I would be like, oh my God.
so adorable,
Oh
right?
my god. And no. What? Oh, gag me with a spoon. No, those are things that we said in the 80s. This is way, way before your time.
I'm just barely
I was graduating a year after you were born. But so it was a lot of
And how did that feel when you were in those moments trying to conform and just trying to fit in? Because I know what it feels like hearing your story, but I'm not I'm sure.
It was bad.
And that's not to conjure up those emotions. It's just more so just the understanding, guys, that we have to be patient and gentle with ourselves as well as others, and meet people where they are, because you never know what someone is going through. And sometimes we can't see the forest for our own trees, and it's hard to try to even get over and understanding, because we're so concerned with our own selves and what we have going on, so where we just see people, whatever, dismissing them and doing that. It's like, well, no, there's so much more. Even listening to you, so many downloads are coming, like the guidance in you, then the gifts, and then all these things that come across, because it's not of the norm. You are, one person, many are called, few are chosen. Right, so in the ones that are chosen, you can tell, because those are the ones who have go through the most things in life, almost seemingly. And it is the most, because the task that we are tasked with is for the masses. It's things, it's not about us, but it impacts us so much so where it's damn. But then once we learn and we figure out what is what, then we're able to be a beacon of light to the next person. And this is.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely hit the nail on the head. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm talking to you.
Yes, I should.
It is my responsibility to pass this information along so that other people who may be suffering can perhaps have just a little bit of an easier road than I did. Maybe, if you weren't diagnosed as a kid and you're in your 20s or your 30s and you're all of that makes sense to me. All of this makes sense to me, and maybe I should get, and what's really hard is that there is a community locally for heavily affected, autistic people. So they are not, they're not highly functioning. And what highly functioning means is that you have, verbal ability, that allows you to converse with people in a way that neurotypicals converse.
Super smart. I thought you were a genius. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I swear to God, you are very intelligent. And then even I swear, people still say conversate, by the way.
Conversate. Sorry. Did I say it wrong?
No, you said converse.
Yeah.
But even that, so that on the minor scope, just even when talking to you, you are very you're intellectual, or you were very stimulated.
Well, because I didn't have any friends, and because my parents wouldn't let me watch TV when I was a kid, which was probably a really good thing.
They said, what is wrong? They're trying to figure out what's influencing this all along.
Yeah, so I read books all the time. I played the piano. My parents immersed me in music when I was very little. I think my first piano lesson was when I was 3 years old, because those were the languages that I spoke. I spoke music.
Music is a love language.
Yeah, so I did do very well with music, singing. Those were the things that I remember first in life, and then reading and writing were my second strengths, where I'm just very good at writing things down, and that's probably because I've read so many books and I didn't get to watch TV, all that shit. But
all that shit.
And I also didn't have any friends to take up my time, right? So I spent so much time reading. But anyway, So that's why I'm here.
I'm thankful for you being here. So we are at So normally this will be the part of the show. Well, before I get out of here, normally I do angel cards. I see the box over there. They're not here, so I'm gonna wrap this up, and then I'm gonna do it separate, and then upload it, attach it that way, because I don't want to just have the film running while I try to find it. But so Lee, what is it? So what's one thing, or how many things that comes to your spirit that people should know about ASD, which is Autism Spectrum Disorder? What should people know about that, as far as how we could be of, I don't want to say be of service, or what should we know? People should know about ASD.
I wish that when I were smaller, that kids would have tried to understand why I was the way that I was. And I think kids, typically take up their parents' prejudices, you know. So
staring and stuff. That's so rude. Don't stare at people.
staring and and making fun of them and
no.
punching them and doing stuff like that. But
Bullying.
I also wish that adults would have understood me more. One of the things that I remember from my childhood the most was when adults would ostracize me. I thought to myself, kids do this to me and I don't understand why. But when adults did it to me, I was like, but they're adults. In my head, I thought adults are supposed to be the ones who accept you, because my parents were very accepting, you know, like they were like, something's wrong with you, but we love you anyway, and we're here for you. But so many adults couldn't take it, like didn't like me. They just really,
something or something, you know what I mean?
Hated me. Like my sister was, you know, she's neurotypical, so everybody was attracted to her. So she was 3 years younger than me, and they would always comment on how beautiful she was and how, you know, emotive she was and how great she was at everything. And I would be standing there as a kid going, but I'm here too. And it was like I wasn't even in the room. It was like I wasn't even there. I felt
beautiful
invisible.
Swan, Lee. I'm hearing beautiful swan. You were a beautiful swan.
Nobody thought so back then. I definitely didn't think so.
And you know.
But that's what I would say. If you know of a kid who is odd, different, and you don't
look for those signs. What is it like? If they're looking like they don't want to be touched,
quiet,
flickering, outbursts. It seems like
outbursts and stuff like that. If you just feel a certain way toward a child, and you're like, I just don't like that child. I think as adults, I think it's our responsibility to examine why we feel the way that we feel.
Definitely.
Say, why do I like this child over this child? And maybe realize that if you have that feeling toward that child, most other people probably do as well. And that child is probably being ostracized or treated badly. And maybe re-examine how you feel and ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Is there a legitimate reason for me to feel this way? Maybe I should try to break out of this feeling by paying more attention to that child. And I would say that if we could go further with that, I would say I would challenge adults to ask themselves why they don't like different adults. So if you think that there's an adult who seems like a know-it-all, seems like,
you want to be my friend, you want to be my
they like to lecture a lot or whatever, like it's not,
don't write it off like they're just this or they're just a B or they're just whatever. Like, no, maybe
it's not so bad to try to tell somebody like, hey, what, you know, you've talked a lot, like, you know, like why don't you say to them, instead of like ostracizing them and go, I'm not going to give you a chance, I don't like you, you're just weird, why not say, you've talked a lot, I want a chance to talk too, could you allow me a chance to talk too, or whatever the thing is that you think is so bad about them, right?
Communication,
some people you're just not going to like. I don't like some people. There are some people that I really just don't, you know, I can't get along with. And those are generally, those people are people who won't look at themselves and who have the same, you know, repetitive patterns of bad behavior, and they refuse.
No accountability.
Yeah, they refuse to take accountability for who they are and why they act the way they act. So yeah, there are some people that I don't like, but like what I say is, examine your motives for not liking someone. Really examine them.
So deeply, because the people that we meet in our lives, they're mirrors. So and so if a parent or if an adult is looking at a child in a way, or looking at anybody and they're having some type of reaction within themselves that makes them feel away, it's something within them that they got to figure out. Maybe, you know, who knows, but that examining, getting, you know, sitting down with yourself and leading into those emotions. Like, why do I feel like, why am I? And just really, and you know, sometimes it's not about what I feel like, it's about remembering who and what we are, right? So in that, so once we start operating from a divine state of mind, then that's when we're able to look at it from like outside of ourselves. Now let me understand what this is. But a lot of people, they don't want to take that time and do that work, but it's okay, because it's a plenty for everyone that don't. There's going to be 100 that do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 100. For everyone that don't, there's going to be 100 that does. Ashe. Lee, thank you so much for being a part of Vibin with Ron. It's been
really
an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad that we crossed paths.
I love you, and I think that what you're doing is really amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. I'll have all of Lee's information in the description box. And I'm going to find my tarot cards because I did that as a part of the show. So I'm going to find those guys and then I'll pop back in. But Lee, thank you so much for being on the show. And you guys have a beautiful, wonderful, magical weekend. Or what? No, what is today anyway?
It's Thursday. It's almost the weekend. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
it's good.
Plan ahead. Plan ahead. And as always, use your magic and your power for good. Okay, bye.
Bye.